welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo.
Lots to talk about this week, including the latest Silent Hill Downpour.
What the hell is this?
Plus, from legendary game designer Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of Final Fantasy, comes The Last Story.
You want some as well? Believe me, I won't hold back.
And once again, we take a look at another free-to-play game in Gratis Gaming, and this week it's Tribes Ascend.
Plus, Goose takes a look at how our increasing use of technology is enabling bullies.
That story a little later, but first, can you guess the game for this week?
It's your turn to read the news, Hex.
Oh, I think it's your turn.
It's your turn.
Is it?
Definitely your turn.
What?
Yeah, completely.
Good game.
The British Academy of Film and Television Arts, or BAFTA, has handed out its video game gongs for 2011. Portal 2 nabbed the awards for Best Design and Story, as well as being named the best game of 2011. Best Music went to LA Noire, Best Debut went to Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet, and in a bit of a shock, Skyrim failed to receive a single award, despite receiving nominations in 5 categories. Notorious Twitter persona Peter Molyneux, whose witty tweets parody the real Peter Molyneux's sometimes grandiose game design ideas, has become so popular that a 48-hour game jam has been arranged in his honour, called What Would Molly Do? At the jam, which will take place simultaneously in various cities all over the world on March 31st and April 1st, contestants will be challenged to make games based on some of Molyneux's more ridiculous game concepts. These include a game where you control a full stop, enemies read you stories and you have to jump in between the words at the right time. I also love the idea of playing a character who is pretending to be blind, so you have to keep bumping into things to not arouse suspicion. Game in which you control a waterfall and must travel the world hiding outdoor passages from adventurers. It is rumoured that Peter Molyneux himself will attend the jam in Brighton. Australian gamers are one step closer to the long-awaited R18+ rating, with the Classification Amendment Bill 2012 being passed by the House of Representatives last week without dispute. The next step is for the legislation to be presented to the Senate, which will happen in the coming weeks.
Good game.
The last few Silent Hill games have been a bit average at best, but Downpour is in many ways a step forward for the series, and it's also a bit scary.
Would you have a wondrous time?
You play Murphy Pendleton, a prisoner with beautiful, beautiful hair and rather nice stubble too. This is a story about unravelling who Murphy is and why he's in prison.
Murphy! I got your paperwork here. Take a look.
In typical Silent Hill style, the journey is a battle with his own demons, figuratively and literally, but much of what goes on is left for you to decipher.
What the hell are you doing in here anyway, Murphy? You're not like these guys.
Yeah, and most of the game is figuring that out, isn't it? What this character is all about and interpreting the events of the game. And it really pulled me in, Hex. It's been a while since I've been pulled into a Silent Hill game, but I needed to see this one through. I liked all the voice acting too. But we should talk about the start of the game and the opening sequence.
Yes, right at the start, Pendleton is pushed into a rather brutal prison murder. Avoid your eyes if you don't like stabs in the neck.
Let's open the goddamn door. Help somebody.
After that scene, I thought this might just turn into a gore fest, but it's not at all. It's just this particular scene, and it's a brutal way to start a game, isn't it?
Well, I think having to commit a murder at the very beginning of a video game creates an impact no matter what, but I'm not sure that it needed to be that violent. I mean, this guy's begging for his life, and first I pick up a stick and I'm beating him with that, and then I have a knife and I'm sticking it in his neck. Like, it seemed to be unnecessary.
Yeah, and they've done it on purpose too. They've made this character very fleshy and vulnerable, and he can't even fight back, so you feel bad when you're doing it.
Why?
You know exactly why.
Look, I think it's one thing to watch something that violent play out in a cutscene, but to put the player in control of such a violent act, and this person is essentially defenseless. It takes me back to that Modern Warfare 2 scene where you have to massacre, well, you have the option to massacre all those people.
Mount up.
Once you get past this scene, Murphy is put on a prisoner transport, only for the inevitable ride and crash into Silent Hill.
From here here on, you'll be running around town, solving heaps of puzzles from simple lever and cog stuff to more complicated number puzzles. You know, I haven't spent that much time with Silent Hill, Barjo, so this was a bit of a trial by fire for me, and I have to say I struggled with a few of those puzzles. I mean, I'm okay with puzzles when it's all contained in front of me, but so many of these related to something that I may have walked over or forgot to pick up in a room, you know, ages back in the game, or numbers that I didn't write down. It kind of goes back to that old school kind of gaming where you need to have a notepad and pen with you to take notes at all times, and I don't know that's going to appeal to everyone.
Yeah, it is tough going, but I didn't mind the trip down game design memory lane. Solving side puzzles or mysteries often rewards you with new clothes or maybe a weapon, but sometimes it does something a bit special, such as this cutscene.
So what's it gonna be, Murphy? You and me gonna play ball? Or is all your hard work for nothing?
And I liked how these moments give you more insight to that character.
Some of those moments are truly inspired, Barjo, and there's so many of them. I mean, it's rare that a game will take little ideas like this and really flesh them out, and, you know, in such quantity as well.
And it helps set the mood and atmosphere of this game, which they get so right. I gotta say, this is the first game in a long time where I felt genuine anxiety and fear walking about the place. And the best part is, it's not just aliens in a crate, you know, it's not cheap scares, it's genuinely moody.
Yeah, when the scares worked, I just loved it. Classic enemies running past in the distance, creepy background noises and surprises. Just when you think this game is going left, it goes right. I think it's heightened too because the enemies are so tough and your weapons are so weak. I mean, initially you'll be fighting with bottles and axes, but for a good while you'll be clinging for dear life to that piece of wood or a frying pan because that's all you have.
I held onto that frying pan at the start of the game for so long, Hex. It's all I've got, and then it got knocked out of my hand anyway, so I never end up using it. There's not many enemies to fight, but I think my favorite were those mannequins. These are ghost mannequins that wander about the place, and you can't take them out until you take down the original real-life mannequin. And there's something about mannequins which is just so creepy.
Yeah.
And the pacing of these scares is really good, and the best part is, until the last couple of hours, they don't repeat anything, so you're always on edge. It's a bit of a shame that the last couple hours of this game drag a bit, to be honest, because if it had just ended, it would have been great, but just kept going and going.
For me, where this game falls down is definitely with the combat. You can block and sort of lock onto an enemy, but mostly you'll just button mash because it yields the best results. It just feels clunky and it drags down the overall experience. It does get a bit better when you pick up shotguns and pistols, but of course ammo is very scarce, and generally you're better off with a melee weapon than a shotgun.
I like the threat of these enemies though, and if there's more than one in a room, it's almost always better to run away. But the game isn't focused on running away. You can still get in there and have a good bash. Some of the boss fights are a bit rough though, and in fact the whole game is pretty badly checkpointed, so I think there'll be many rage quit moments for people here.
I really like those chase sequences though. They take place in the other world, which is when the game goes all dark and twisted and becomes a rusty steampunk nightmare.
Oh God, not again.
Now and then a strange warping thing will chase you down hallways, and these moments often require quick thinking, a bit of trial and error and some smart turns to get through. And when that warp thing gets close to you and you start screaming, ah!
I thought this game does a great job of disorientating you.
Yeah, the strengths of Downpour are in its atmosphere, and these moments are really where you can tell the developers tried really hard to mess with you. Murphy is trying to escape this nightmare, which seems to be created just for him.
Now, what do you say we get out of here, all three of us?
Do you know the rhyme?
Themes of fear run strong throughout, and the characters you meet are so interesting because they're trapped too, but some don't seem to know it and disregard your questions when you try to pry into their world.
Can't say I understand the question. This is a busy town. Do you think these letters deliver themselves?
Whatever.
This game does have a lot of rough edges, but I thought it was still quite compelling, and that sound is just incredible. All those little scamper noises and creaks. Even the pause menu is scary.
I wanted to like this more, Barjo, because there's so many wonderful moments to be found. It's just difficult getting to them because you'll struggle with the controls a little bit. Also, there were some frame rate issues. It might just be because we're not on the final code. But anyway, what are you giving it?
Well, I think we need a reboot or a refresh of the series. We need a modern Silent Hill for sure. But I think this is still worth pushing through for that story. So I'm giving it 7 out of 10.
I'm giving it 6.
Next up, Gratis Gaming, where we trawl the cosmos for games with the price tag of nothing. Tribes Ascend has been in open beta for a little while now. We've been playing with some of the GGTV community over the last few weeks.
Come here, Goose. Oh, no! I'm going so slow. I can't go. Ow! No!
It's a multiplayer shooter featuring 3 modes: Deathmatch, which is pretty boring, 5v5s, which is thrilling,
Oh, you moved!
and Capture the Flag, which is really what this whole game has been designed for, and it does it beautifully.
Oh, who grabbed our flag?
Oh no, what a shame.
Oh, I'm gonna go after
Yeah, go
him.
after him. You should go after him.
Sadly, I missed the original Tribes games, but I had a great time with this.
Yeah, it's had a great mix of old school Quake 3, Twitch, shoot where your enemy is going to be kind of vibe to it. And also reminded me a lot of Halo with those big open maps and the way the models looked. And then I started to ski.
Yes, to quote a friend of mine, there's something very special about an FPS that has a speedometer. Skiing is core to this game, and the best description of how you actually gather speed is just like that mobile game Tiny Wings. You jetpack up the hills and ski down the slopes. You need to get a good pace if you want enough momentum to grab the enemy's flag without getting smashed by their turrets,
Oh, I'm dead.
or being called a llama grabber. There's nothing worse than a llama, Hex. You're getting a good speed up, you've got a beeline for the flag, then all of a sudden someone just ambles up to it, picks it up, and then gets blasted away, ruining the whole thing. You even get a badge for being called a llama grabber, and the devs tell us that a llama comes from the word lama, and it was an evolution of that, and that's why they call it a llama.
Oh man, I want such a good run.
And when you have that flag and the music starts to ramp up, it's just like an action film as you race to the other side with a whole army of super soldiers chasing you.
Yeah, it's so easy to get distracted out on the field or lost out somewhere in a random firefight. It takes so long to unlock all of the character classes though, and I think here is where the devs are hoping to make their money. You can buy almost anything with real life purchase gold, and you need to spend around $30 if you want to unlock all of the classes straight away. It's a shame there wasn't more unlocked from the start, Barjo, but I mean, you know, it makes sense as a business model, and I think it's fair.
Yeah, me too. And you still have to grind away at your favorite class if you want those upgrades. You can't buy them.
The original Tribes was based very much around rocket attacks, where you line up your shot and, you know, try and fire where your enemy is going to be. Ascend has a more traditional rifle and hit scan weapons, so it'll be more accessible and have a larger community because of that, I think.
There are heaps of classes, and you can come up with some fun strategies, such as putting a heavy unit right on the flag, so anyone with any sort of speed hitting that unit will actually take damage. Also, the stealth class is a lot of fun. I love sneaking up behind people and just lobbing a sticky grenade on them from the shadows.
Oh, you're an infiltrator, aren't you?
Enjoy.
And playing with turrets is fun too. I like the focus on keeping your base repaired so vehicles can still be purchased by your teammates, and on the other side, it's exciting bombarding enemy bases. And infiltrating enemy bases to take out their generator is always exciting,
Tear it down.
especially when their cavalry arrive to fix it.
Oh, they don't like me. I'm causing so much damage.
The kills in this game are so satisfying, and there's a place for these kind of games. There's not enough fast-paced shooters where you can just get in, have a quick bash, and get out, plus local servers to boot. Woohoo!
Barjo, this already feels like a fully fledged game, and you know, the devs have been constantly updating and changing maps for balance, so it shows they really care about getting it right. I had a great time with this, I'm giving it 8.
They need to fix the friends list, which isn't working quite well at the moment, but other than that, this is the best free-to-play game I've played in a long time. In fact, I think it's the best free-to-play game out there. I'm giving it 9 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Next up, Goose.
In the gaming universe, we're used to being able to communicate with each other online. And these days, there are plenty of methods that allow us to do just that. Sometimes though, what should be tools to bring us closer together do exactly the opposite.
When I made my Facebook, people started adding me, and I really didn't want to add them, but I was scared, like, if I declined their request, they would start bullying me more at school. And pretty much I added them, and they started uploading pictures of monkeys and stuff like that and tagging me in them. That really, really hurt. They write stuff about you, they write stuff about what happened at school. It's like, oh, Karan got really bullied today, ha ha ha, or whatever like that. It was a pretty bad experience.
Last year, a national survey found that over 30% of 14 to 17-year-olds had been cyberbullied, and that those that are bullied are 3 times more likely to suffer from depression.
So the bullying is about causing harm to someone, being hostile to someone, excluding a person, purposefully trying to cause them discomfort. The difference with the cyberbullying is that it has the capacity to be there 24/7. What we're seeing is that the bullying isn't left at in the schoolyard, that it's often taken home, and that it impacts on young people in what is usually a safe environment, their home environment.
But is there something about online communication that allows us to say things we'd never utter to a person face to face?
I think the main thing with online communication and why people behave differently than when they do face-to-face is either they are anonymous or they feel what we sometimes call pseudo-anonymous, but it's that distance between, if you and I are sitting in a room together, that's one situation, but with distance of online communication, or if I truly am anonymous, then for some people that brings out the worst in them. And that's when we see, some of the terrible things we do see online and the poor behaviour we see from people. A lot of it's tied up with that anonymity.
Most Australian homes have a gaming console, and it's widespread in Australia. And for many young people, being online is their life. There's no difference between being bullied in the playground and being bullied online. And it exists anywhere that there is a high engagement amongst the audience, and that is particularly true in gaming.
We have lost the objective. I repeat, we have lost.
So griefing is a situation in which you've got one player deliberately making a nuisance or behaving in an annoying way to other players and acting outside the spirit of the game.
Hey Goose, I can give you a health pack if you want. Do you want a health pack? Here you go. All right, just stay here. It'll be here in a second.
Cease fire!
The question of whether there's a link between griefing and cyberbullying is a very interesting one, and it's one that's not particularly well researched yet. There's lots of evidence of cyberbullying in other spaces, in social media, but in gaming it's kind of something that hasn't been inspected that closely.
Betrayal lost the lead.
Where it will become more than just griefing or trolling is when you know the other people who are playing, or when it does become repeated and it becomes a deliberate sort of targeted attack. Having said that, I think one of the key things is the experience of the person being griefed or trolled or bullied. And when it becomes significantly upsetting for them, I think that's the thing that we need to watch out for.
As a victim of cyberbullying, there are a number of things that you can do to protect yourself. The Australian Communications Media Authority have a website called CyberSafe and CyberSmart. The joy of the cyber world is that you are actually in control. So you can block content, you can shut down someone as a friend and defriend them. You can, as a bystander, if you see bullying behaviour and as a member of a community, whether it's a Facebook community or it's another community that you're on, you can actually report that bad behaviour. The thing with cyberbullying is that you've actually got a record of the bullying, and it can be things that people have posted, it can be SMS messages that they've sent to you, and so keeping a record and talking to a trusted adult, whether that's a parent, a family friend, a teacher, it really is about taking back the power and taking it away from the bully, because remember, it's all about the power differential.
It's a key to speak up when you're being bullied. It's one of the main things that you have to do completely. That's why I was pretty much bullied, because I was quiet the whole time. I never said anything, I cried, but that was a pretty painful experience, and I realized I really need to do something about this. And my life is much, much better now, especially with gaming, because I can make so many friends on that.
Stop! Some good work down there.
In our work and in all the work that we're aware of, we've found no correlations between gaming and bullying. In fact, what we're finding is the opposite. So a lot of the research that's being done is showing that what gaming provides is a really positive impact on people's lives, and a lot of people are making really significant social connections.
Oh no, don't go down. Oh! There's more stuff. Oh god.
They're celebrating connections that exist or enjoying friendships that already exist, and more often than not, it's adding to well-being. The research that shows the positive impacts is not getting as much attention yet. So one of our key goals in the Young and Well CRC is to sort of promote that awareness and to help people be educated about how and when games can have this positive impact, and in particular, make the government aware of it so that they can sort of help spread the word.
If you need to talk to someone or would like any more information on cyberbullying, call the Kids Helpline on 1800 55 1800 or visit cybersmart.gov.au.
The creator of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi, left Square Enix 8 years ago to start his own company and create something new. Since then, we've had Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, and now we have The Last Story.
Has a familiar ring to it, doesn't it? The Last Story. It's almost like Sakaguchi wants to recall that magic from Final Fantasy and do it all again with something new.
Yeah, I wonder if, years from now we're going to end up with The Last Story 13-2.
You play as Zale, a young mercenary, one of a ragtag bunch, who one day dreams of becoming a knight.
I'll be a knight too one day, no matter what it takes.
He soon bumps into a young girl named Lisa, who is in fact a princess who'd rather be out adventuring than marrying some creepy lord for political purposes.
I get to marry someone I despise and then grow old trapped in that castle. Lucky me.
Your adventure will pit you against the nasty Guraks and their king, Zangurak, who looks like he could be the twin brother of Ganondorf from the Zelda series, to be honest. As simple as that setup sounds, the story actually has a fair bit of depth to it, with place for power and mystical beasts and lots of other fun little subplots to take up your time as you explore the streets of Lazarus.
Ah, the streets of Lazarus. I had quite a bit of fun adventuring and pottering about there, Hex.
It's Lazarus.
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 I bought a banana. Did my best to stop a fight. And start one.
What was that for?
Tried to save a little kitty cat. Chased some birds. Did a little dance. And watched some fireworks. I was a busy little guy.
Get out of here, you big perv!
No, I didn't mean to. Ow!
I thought those first few side missions were a little bit frivolous though. They're just fetch quests really, but it's not long before the game starts to pull you along from one big event to another.
Yeah, that adventuring is quite linear, but it works well as an engaging story. And the game just transports you from one location to the next without bothering to pad things around by making you travel there, and I do like that.
This place is just bursting with nature.
Did you like the British voice cast? I thought they were really great, and they really endeared those characters to me. I mean, so many of the characters in games we're used to hearing have American accents, and I found this was a lot more charming.
Looks like we have a new client.
Woo! All right! Just as we're about to run out of money too.
Thanks to someone getting hammered all the time.
Shut it! I risked my life.
It's a really emotional little tale too, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, there's this whole chapter which is just dedicated to the love story between Zale and Lisa. Complete with an awkward moment or two.
What's wrong, Zale?
Let's talk a bit about Zale. I mean, first of all, he looks like he could be a member of an 80s metal band. Zale has the unique ability to carry a crossbow as one of his weapons, which allows you to switch to first person a lot in this game.
Yes, you can switch to Seek mode, which lets you see the world from Zale's eyes. The game uses this to bring some interactivity to the cutscenes as you spot something important, or it lets you target things in order to command your party members to cast a spell at that location.
The pillar, not the reptiles. I see. I'll give it a shot.
Obviously, firing off arrows is something you do a lot in that mode, even if it's just to make someone slip on a banana peel, which I have to say is not something I ever thought I'd have to rely on in a battle.
This first-person mechanic is borrowed from Zelda, and it works quite well, except if you're playing with the nunchuck, which I was, and I just felt like every single time I wanted to aim at something, he'd be facing the wrong direction, and that was infuriating. It is better with the classic controller. I did like how you could get a bit of information about an enemy's weak spot in this mode, or pick off pesky spellcasters up the back of an enemy group with a well-placed wizard-busting arrow.
It seemed a bit silly in story moments, though. The game would suddenly hand you control just so that you could turn the camera to look at something important in the room before continuing. I mean, that was kind of annoying, really.
Yeah, but the last story does try to innovate. This combat is really different from other RPGs. From the way it lets you first survey the battlefield from a bird's eye view, to how your character automatically strikes out with his weapon. This means you run up against enemies to attack them, and it's more about where you position yourself in a fight. And it reminded me of Dragon Age a little bit.
Yeah, it's more of an action-based RPG without all that endless button mashing. Instead, you use special powers like Gathering, which draws all of the aggro from all of the enemies at once, giving your party members time to cast their spells or get in behind. Or your Whirlwind move, Gale, that disperses the magic your teammates have charged up, as well as making you dash across instantly to your chosen target.
That makes the boss fights interesting as well, such as how you can use Gale to disintegrate that webbing in that fight with the giant spider. In fact, I found the combat overall quite tactical, and I enjoyed that. You can take cover behind objects and dash out for a deadly slash attack, or even switch to the paused command mode and order your teammates more specifically.
I felt like combat got really messy a lot of the time.
Bit of a mess here, though.
When you use Gale and your character gets stuck on an object in the environment during his dash and your move is wasted. Ugh.
Yeah, that happened to me a few times too, but I kind of like messy. It's fun running about in these fights to avoid getting swarmed. And it makes sense they're giving your character 5 lives because it's so easy to screw up this combat.
I was a little bothered by the fact that the characters just level up automatically. There's not much to do other than equip a better weapon or change the colour of your outfit.
Yeah, even the merchants are pop-up menus, but I don't mind that. I quite like the fast pace of it. It's all just wham bam. Thanks, ma'am. I don't know what's going on, Hex, but I'm really enjoying my JRPGs on the Wii, except they're on the Wii.
Come on, you're not going to go down the graphics path again. I mean, I agree this is not the best looking game, but you can't compare consoles. I mean, just accept the Wii for what it is, Barjo.
No. I want to enjoy these games, and I know we're spoiled for choice at the moment, and it isn't fair to compare consoles, but when you come from something like this...
They're in trouble.
to this...
Greetings, traveller. I am a wandering harmonica player.
I don't know, Hex, it's just getting harder and harder, and my real point isn't even about the hardware, it's just that it could be more beautiful than this, and it ends up being blotchy and low res and even a bit blurry at times.
Well, I know it's a little rough around the edges, but even so, I think it's still a fun romp. It keeps you intrigued, even if it never really hits any great heights.
There's something in the water.
I would have liked a bit more freedom to explore. It does feel a bit too scripted at times, but even so, this is a great RPG for the Wii, especially because it does something different and it does it well. So I'm giving it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It's 7 from me.
Would you take me away with you? Anywhere. Right now.
What?
Good game.
Ah, so what was the game this week? Did you guess it?
It was Chrono Cross, the RPG sequel to Chrono Trigger, released in 1995 for the PlayStation. It was both a critical and popular success and had an amazing score by Yasunori Mitsuda. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Good Game.
Next week we'll be sharpening our shurikens with Ninja Gaiden 3.
And celebrating the 15th birthday of the Nintendo 64, Goose goes backwards compatible.
What was that noise?
It's a Transformers noise.
What's all this?
Because he's going backwards compatible.
What's that got to do with going backwards compatible?
Goose loves the 64.
He's nuts for it.
Yeah, he's a massive fanboy. Don't forget, over on Spawn Point this weekend, we'll check out the latest Mario Party 9.
And there's another episode of Good Game Grandstand available. If you missed it on the radio, you can download it. We talk about SSX, iRacing, and UFC Undisputed 3.
Till next time, Hex out.
Barjo out. You know what I'm doing? Thinking about sandwiches. I'm related.
It's relevant.
What's your favourite N64 game?
It's a toss-up between GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, and, Mario Kart. Yeah.
Do you know what mine is?
What?
Don't have one. Sega Forever. Sega Forever.